I'm Trish Toby with WARC reporting to you live from Westchester, New York, where there appears to be some sort of mutant menace on the loose.
Hey, everybody, I'm Matt Aucamp.
And I'm Pat Reber.
And I'm Alex Goldman.
And say it with us, Pete. Welcome to Mutant Menace.
Perfect.
Nailed it. How's it going? Alex Goldman, you're here again.
I know. Back again and better than ever. Do you guys only invite me on when you want to talk about problematic portrayals of Africa? Because we're 2 for 2 so far.
I forgot that there was a problematic depiction of Africa in the last one.
Yeah, we did X-Men Giant Size 1, which portrays Storm as just like a noble savage emerging from the muck.
These people think I'm a god because they don't understand anything.
I will say it's not intentional, but we did specifically think of you for this comic, Alex. We were like, should we get him back because this will blow his mind?
Thank you.
It's just such a bizarre comic book, right?
Really weird.
How are you doing? How have you been over? We haven't talked to you in 5-6 months.
It's longer than that. I think we recorded in July of last year, so it's been almost a year.
Jesus!
Wow! Yeah, time's flying.
I guess
outside of the chronological order of X-Men.
I am good. There's so little to report. I'm trying to avoid the news as much as possible, which I do a terrible job at.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, just making podcasts and reading books and all of my normal stuff, I guess. Wish I had more to report. I feel so boring here.
No.
I don't know
where it's at.
When people ask me what I've been doing, I'm just like, I've been reading a lot of X-Men and recording episodes about it with my friend Pat.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the thing I've been doing. So I started a podcast called Amityville, where we're watching all the Amityville movies in order. So, and we're watching way ahead. So the audience is only up to, I think, episode 6 or 7. We're on like the 12th or 13th movie, and we're struggling. Holy moly.
Had no idea there was that many.
Honestly, I didn't either. I read it somewhere, and I was like, this has to be a gag. But I guess the deal is you can't copyright the name Amityville, and since it's a true story for which all of the sort of main characters are dead, you can really kind of portray them however you want or not portray them at all.
Yeah.
To be clear, when they were alive, the Lutzes, the family that were allegedly haunted in the Amityville house, were incredibly litigious and sued the makers of many Amityville movies, including up to the 2005 remake with Ryan Reynolds. And the only reason it didn't advance in the courts is because George Lutz passed away during the lawsuit.
Wow.
But around 2011, Asylum Pictures, who is best known for like Sharknado and all those movies, they made an Amityville movie, and then everybody just kind of followed suit. They were like, all right, well, let's get it. So between 2011 and 2023, there were, I have to do some math here, 81.
My goodness.
How? Oh my God.
Most of these are like on home video. Like a lot of them are available on YouTube. The most recent one we just watched was very, very bad, to the point where like at the end of the movie, it's supposed to be like a found footage movie, and they show the written autopsies of all of the characters that die at the end of the movie, and they say died of extreme blood loss. And extreme is misspelled on every single one of them.
EEM?
It's EXTREAM. Extreme.
An extreme of blood fell out of my vein.
Wild.
But
like But like, the more we watch, the more I'm like, we just got to come up with like amusing diversions for people, because I can't talk about these. There's nothing to say. They're so fucking bad.
And it must be just the same story over and over and over again in various ways, right?
A lot of them, yeah. But like, I'm really looking forward to like, there's like Amityville Outhouse and Amityville in Space and Amityville
Amityville in Space.
There's Amityville Vibrator, which I think is probably going to be pretty interesting. So there's like a whole bunch that we're going to make our way to that I think are like interesting. We actually skipped all the way to the end because a brand new one just came out, and the people who made it also happen to be making their own We're Watching All the Amityville Movies podcast. And in a very sort of nicely recursive circular way, it is Amityville NATO, and it's about a haunted tornado that's killing people.
Okay, all right,
that's incredible.
It was very entertaining, very funny movie.
So if you're 12 in, have you gotten to like the camp side of things yet, or are they still taking it pretty seriously?
I mean, to be fair, they began as camp, and I've only gotten more though as time has gone on. We have not yet. We're still in we just finished Amityville Haunting, and the next one is Amityville Asylum, both of which seem to be taking themselves pretty seriously.
Okay.
So we'll have to wait and see.
And are some of these just incredibly hard to find, or have you been able to find them all pretty easily?
I mean, so far, everybody's really excited about making these things available. Okay. But that, like, we watched the Amityville Curse, which is the 5th one. I was like, this movie is terrible. There's like no redeeming value to this. This has to be the worst one. So when we got the guys who did Amityville NATO on, which will come out, I don't know, 3-4 weeks from now, probably out by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah.
Nice.
We were like, hey, Amityville Curse was the worst, right? And they were like, oh no, not on your life. They were like, I was like, what's the worst then? And they're like, well, Amityville Elevator has like a 17-minute scene of a guy who's just like screaming. It's like experimental theater almost.
Oh no.
Whoa,
and I was like,
wild.
I was like, I got to be honest. That kind of excites me.
That's, I mean, an interesting, I can relate to the, you read the material that you chose to do your podcast about, and then you're just kind of like, oh no, what do we say about this one? But with us, it's like when the comics are good, which a lot of the Chris Claremont ones are, not the one we're talking about today, but a lot of the Chris Claremont ones are, it becomes like, oh no, what are we going to say about this one?
Yeah, we have so much less to say.
There's not enough to just dunk on.
Totally. I get it.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that this was Chris Claremont. Everybody was sort of speaking in soliloquies in this one. It was very, very weird writing in this particular comic as well.
Yeah.
When
There's a lot of people still stuck in that Silver Age mentality here.
How many is it? 16, 17 writers on this?
Oh, right. I read the editor's note at the end of the thing that was like, we asked everyone who worked at Marvel and some people at DC to work on this particular issue of X-Men.
So let's get into what this thing is.
So today we are covering Heroes for Hope, which is Marvel's attempt to capitalize on the success of things like We Are the World, Live Aid, Do They Know It's Christmas, that sort of push in the 80s to raise money for famine in Africa. This was done, it's pretty wild. This was done Exquisite Corpse-style. So for anybody that doesn't know or just wants a refresher, it's also called a comics jam in comics, but it's when you hand each section of a book off to a different writer. So for example, here, Stan Lee wrote the first 4 pages, handed it over to Ed Bryant, who was a successful science fiction short story writer at the time. He wrote a page, handed it over to Louise Simonson. We have a crazy list of writers here, actually. It's same with the artists. They just put together different pairings and page by page switched off, took turns. So
they planned this thing. Whose idea was this?
This was Jim Starlin and Berni Wrightson said we should do, I don't know if the Exquisite Corpse part was their idea, but
Okay.
the idea of doing a benefit comic was theirs.
But then Marvel decided they would do this comic on behalf of famine relief efforts in Africa. That is as specific as they get in Africa. And they chose their charity, Oxfam America, and they never told Oxfam they were doing this. They didn't get any sort of prior authorization or a green light, a go ahead. So when they finished this thing, they handed it to Oxfam, and Oxfam was like, no, we do not want this.
Absolutely not. They called it extremely racist and sexist. And
Wow. Like public, God, they must have been so embarrassed.
They were begging Marvel to not even print it. They said, in our opinion, this should not go to market. Just cancel the whole thing now.
Yes. So Jim Stupid, blog, like he wrote a blog about this. It's called "Why I Don't Like Oxfam."
Insane.
And it's so wild and rambly. And so this was in 2011, so we've still stuck on this 30 years later.
30 years later. Oxfam is a very reputable charity. They have,
let's be clear,
a record of being on the right side of history, and Jim Stupid puts them on blast here.
It seems like this is Jim saying they were being too woke about this all before the term had entered the lexicon.
Yeah, I think you can read through it and draw some conclusions about what actually happened from Jim Stupid's perspective here. Sorry, we try not to say his name. They saw the mock-up. It sounds like they thought all of the black characters were too reminiscent of black celebrities, which
is weird.
Fairly common in comics. I think you use a lot of photos of celebrities in magazines or models in magazines as your point of reference, especially in the 80s. But if you're not a comic person, then you're just looking at a Michael Jackson or
Tina Turner.
There we go. They were disgusted by the over-sexualization of Storm. She is the book's only black character. They complained about the women's costumes in general, but especially took issue with Storm because she is, we'll get there, but extremely sexualized in this comic. They found Alan Moore and Richard Corben's depictions of starving Africans pretty racist. There's also a use of the word Yowza, which
the Yowza
I didn't realize
is so strange.
Had racial connotations, but
I didn't either.
Apparently it comes from like minstrel shows.
Wow. I had no idea.
So
I'm gonna stop saying it.
So
I was gonna say, I think of that just as something Bugs Bunny says, and everything Bugs Bunny says came from a minstrel show. I should know.
Yeah, that's true. So according to Jim Shooter, they thought that the logo, which was created by Marvel's resident graphic artist, her name is Janet Claire Jackson. In the book, they note the logo was created by Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson was a huge star at the time, and Oxfam and the Jackson family as a whole were notorious contributors to Oxfam. So Oxfam said, to us, this looks like you are trying to capitalize off the name of Janet Jackson. Like the way Jim Shooter says it, they said Janet Jackson didn't make your logo, you're lying, and then refused to believe they had another Janet Jackson at Marvel.
So you're reading between the lines here.
What I'm reading is that they said, why would you credit a logo designer in a comic book? You're just trying to put Janet Jackson's name on this so people will think it's the singer Janet Jackson.
Okay, I can see the point here, especially because they don't put Janet Jackson's name in just regular comics.
Yeah. It's
definitely something I would not put past Stan Lee,
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It is very Marvel to do something like that.
Seriously.
So Oxfam rejected. You can read the blog post if you want. It is pretty problematic and a little bit racist, but
it is funny to read because it is Jim Stupid just going crazy about a really, kind-hearted, helpful organization because they didn't like his little comic book.
It's made even weirder by the fact that I have to say, like, I loved the first half of the comic.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, like the weird. There's sort of like it's like half a weird dreamscape and then half a very real and nauseating representation of starving people in Africa. Very tasteless.
Yeah.
But like the dreamscape stuff, I thought was pretty entertaining.
I think as a comic, this isn't terribly bad. It's just very weird.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly an experiment.
Right. It felt a lot more like Tales from the Crypt comic than it did an X-Men comic.
Well, they have so many horror writers and artists on this book, too.
Who?
So they have Stephen King.
Stephen King wrote on this? How did I miss that?
So if you look all the way at the beginning of the comic, like the first inside page, it has a list of the pages and each writer and penciler.
That's bonkers.
And so Stephen King wrote on this.
Harlan Ellison.
Berni Wrightson drew on this.
Right.
Alan Moore, who was mostly doing horror stuff at this time.
Right. I mean, it's really fascinating. I can't help but notice all those names are the lily whitest people I've ever heard of in my life, too.
Oh yeah,
kind of comes through.
It's pretty rare to find a black comic book writer in this day and age in the mid 80s. It's fairly rare still, but just to wrap the whole thing up, they did still donate all the funds to charity. This was not a profit project for them. It ended up going to the American Friends Service Committee, who is another reputable charity org, and at the time they had a huge focus on African famine as well. So still went to a good cause, just not very tactfully.
Right.
And also just so classless to complain about it 30 years later and try and like sick a bunch of comic book fans on Oxfam America. So because this comic is in such a weird format, like Pat said, it's Exquisite Corpse-style. So every 2 to 3 pages, the creative team shifts. And so what we're going to do is we're going to like give an overview of the entire comic just so you can follow what's going on a little better. And then we'll do our normal recap and,
break it down,
breaking down and our thoughts and whatnot by each team. So every 3 pages or so, we have a couple sentences. But first, let's talk about this overarching thing. So the story was written by Chris Claremont, Ann Nocenti, Berni Wrightson, Jim Starlin, and Jim Stupid, and edited by Ann Nocenti and Chris Claremont, with assistant editors Pat Blevins and Terry Cavanaugh. So that's like the overarching thing. And then the dialogue and individual pages written by different people. So do one of you want to read this overview here up at the top?
I would love to.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here we go. Heroes for Hope. Release date, September 3rd, 1985. Cover date, December 1985.
You guys know what's special about that date?
About September 3rd, 1985?
Is that the Challenger?
Oh, no. It's my 4-month birthday.
Okay. I'm sorry that I didn't know that. I'll never forget again.
I just had to interrupt.
I'm so off track here. Oh, I have one question before we get started.
Yeah, please.
Oh, yeah.
Who is Rachel Summers?
Okay.
Is she their daughter from the future?
You got it exactly right.
Oh, man. That's what
Jean Grey and Scott Summers.
In the comic book Days of Future Past, she was like a supporting character, and again, daughter of Jean Grey and Scott Summers. And then somewhere in the early 80s, we're actually recording this a little out of order, so pretty much right where me and Pat are in the series at this time, Rachel Summers, she just comes back for good, and she's stuck in the quote present time, Joins
Does
the
she have a
X-Men.
superhero name? Because she just goes by Rachel for the entire comic.
Well, she takes the name Phoenix,
but
that's weird. So most people just call her Rachel in every comic.
Exactly, to avoid confusion.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
The X-Men are roused by a scream from Rachel Summers. When they run to find her at the front door of the mansion, they see nothing but barren desert in front of them, and Kitty in the middle of it, trying to drag a man inside. They both appear to be starving, as if they haven't eaten in weeks. Everything shifts back to normal when Wolverine kills the mailman. Over the next few hours, each X-Man, Colossus, Shadowcat, Nightcrawler, Magneto, Rachel Summers, Wolverine, and Storm, but not Rogue, find themselves attacked psychically by their worst fears and their greatest desires, punctuated by imagery of famine and extreme poverty in sub-Saharan Africa. All efforts to find this entity that's attacking them using Cerebro or their senses or psychic abilities fails. So they decide to track the entity down to where Rachel last sensed it, the very vague location of Africa.
Of course.
They land in a desert surrounded by starving Africans as a rescue plane lands with food and supplies. The X-Men help unload the plane, feed the starving children, protect the African people from bumbling into the plane propeller, and eventually grow exhausted as night falls. While they sleep, Rogue takes all the X-Men's power, turning herself into a kind of mutant chimera, and heads off into the desert by using a combination of Magneto and Phoenix's powers and memories. She finds the entity's temple. When she touches it, though, it takes over her body. Storm has followed and fights it as it tells her it's existed since the beginning of humanity. It feeds off of human suffering and misery like a vulture, and it's fascinated by the ways in which her and Rogue are different from the humans it knows. One by one, the X-Men wake up and join the fight, ultimately defeating the entity in Rogue's body. As they return to the famine relief camp, they're all feeling dejected. They saved themselves, but didn't defeat the entity. Storm tells them all that it's because the entity can't be beaten, but the fact that they tried matters. The only thing that can overcome suffering is hope. And as they get a stubborn, starving child to take a spoonful of soup, they avow that even though the entity will always be there torturing humanity, so will they be to fight it and save who they can.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the overarching story. There's going to be a lot to dig into here.
Yeah.
But we'll break it down piece by piece. Does anyone have any like overall thoughts before we get into it?
Just that it feels like two different comics. Like the first half feels very sort of dreamlike and metaphysical, and then the second part feels like the entity just decided, he was like, you know what this fight needs, some exposition, and starts telling them all about what's going on, and then it comes to a very unceremonious and pretty offensive ending.
Yeah. You may have noticed a pretty tough time addressing the cause itself too. There's a couple of scenes where they help out with famine relief, but other than that, and the villain naming itself Hungry, they don't really address the starvation.
I would say it is only one chunk of the comic, only one person's little Exquisite Corpse section addresses the idea of colonialism and, the root causes here. But
yeah,
we'll get into that when we get to it.
You can probably guess who.
Yeah, who's the only writer here who has a very thoughtful stance on world politics and is an incredible comic book writer. All right. Why don't I kick this thing off with the first two pages? They're by Stan Lee and John Romita Jr., kind of bringing the beginning of the X-Men into the present, which John Romita Jr. at this time is drawing Uncanny X-Men. Inker is Al Gordon, letters by Tom Warzakowski, and colors by Dana Graziunas. I don't know if I said that right.
I'm glad you had to take the swing at that.
We open on a screaming Rachel Summers standing at the door of the mansion, wailing "No!" at whatever she sees ahead of her. Her shout echoes through the mansion as the X-Men one by one run in to see what's wrong. Magneto, Rogue, Storm, Wolverine, Colossus, and Nightcrawler. When they all join Rachel looking out from the mansion, the entire landscape has changed. They're looking at a vast empty desert, except for a few dust clouds and two figures in the distance, Kitty Pryde and an unconscious postman who she seems to be trying to drag towards the mansion. The heat of the sun is beating down on them, unbearable. So, do you guys think Stan Lee knew what the fuck was going on? Like, do you think he wrote this? I would guarantee he doesn't know who Rachel Summers is. He doesn't know who Rogue is, right?
Yeah, in the mid-'80s, he hasn't seen a comic book in a pretty long time.
You'd think, right? So maybe there's a person over his shoulder being like, okay, Stan, now you have to do this. But these are kind of wordy and kind of basic, but they don't read as old-fashioned as I would have expected.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody gave him a primer on current X-Men, because this is very much like, it's an artist-driven story that somebody, which Stan Lee famously did, just went in and wrote the captions for, but it does not ring like the Stan Lee X-Men comics of old in any way.
I just found the opening to be incredibly confusing. I had to read it like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, what's happening right now? We're in the desert?
Also, he does do those Silver Age things where every person if there's a person in the panel, they have to have dialogue. And if somebody uses their powers, they have to announce their powers and how they used them.
Yes. Yeah. Pages 3 and 4, also written by Stan Lee, but drawn by John Buscema. Inks by Klaus Janson, letters by Tom Warzikowski, and colors by Marie Severin. Nightcrawler tries to rescue Kitty, but is thrown back by an overwhelming sense of dread. Wolverine marches into the desert and begins to starve, but his healing factor keeps him alive. He reaches Kitty. She's starving too, but won't leave the mailman. So Logan shows her that she's more important to him by killing the mailman.
That was so
very weird decision.
Wild.
Weird.
I knew that Stan Lee was writing this.
Yeah, Stan Lee was like, oh, the superheroes can murder now? All right, let's do it.
Suddenly the mailman disappears and everything turns back to normal.
I will say it is a very, like, this is like a such a character focused sort of even like slow progression here of Wolverine fighting through this like starvation that's happening to him and pushing his way through the desert to get to Kitty. Like, that's not the sort of way that Stan Lee ever writes.
Yeah, that's true. But stabbing something and suddenly nobody's dead, but everything's better is very Stan Lee.
Well, you say nobody's dead, but what happened to the mailman? Was he just disappears?
I'm gathering he was an illusion.
Yeah, the mailman was famine or misery or whatever it's supposed to be.
Okay, all right.
Just spooking them.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
So when Nightcrawler is repelled by the like horror of the situation, he's like, it's like I looked through the gate of Hades. He's a Catholic. What are you
talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about?
You're allowed to say hell. It's in the Bible.
And Hades is not.
There is a lot of Kurt Christian imagery in the larger grand scheme of this comic, though. And I, as a person who has not really engaged with the X-Men outside of the movies for the past 25 years.
Yeah.
I completely forgot that part of his character and how deeply religious he is.
Yeah. I mean, in the early 2000s, he becomes a priest. Like some people really lean into Kurt's Catholicism, and it's usually pretty boring.
This is more than we're used to, though. Like, we don't usually in the Claremont era see him turn this heavily to his faith.
Page 5 is by Ed Bryant and Brent Anderson. The artists were Joe Sinnott, Phil Felix, and Bob Sharon. And the recap is Logan and Storm carry Kitty inside while Kurt, Rachel, and Rogue scan for whatever caused this using their abilities. But there's no sign of a foreign presence anywhere. Logan can feel something. Call it instinct, an itch at the base of my skull. and assures everyone the entity is still here.
Thank you for doing a Wolverine voice.
Yeah, you got it. Marvel, hire me as the next Wolverine.
This is mostly, so we have Ed Bryant here. He is a science fiction author of the 70s and 80s. He's mostly known for his short stories. He helped usher in sort of the new wave of science fiction. He is a longtime friend and collaborator of Harlan Ellison.
Oh, okay.
He was a cool dude. He was a big deal at the time. And then Brent Anderson was the artist from God Loves, Man Kills. Remember?
Yeah. And he kind of helped start the arc of good guy Magneto, and now he gets to draw him here.
Weird, though, that they're giving, it seems like this was more of a sort of a transitional thing. Every time we see Ed Bryant, I think he gets 3 separate pages, but
yeah.
It's all him just being like, okay, just so we're clear, let's recap where everybody's at right now.
Yeah, he's table setting. Pages 6 to 8 are Louise Simonson, drawn by John Byrne, with Terry Austin, Mike Higgins, and Petra Scottis. Unsure of what
tough ones today.
I know. Unsure of what to do next, Kurt and Peter relax by the pool. Peter is swimming laps when a towel wraps around his head, pulling him under and smothering him. He turns to Colossus and storms after Nightcrawler, who he assumes did it as a prank. Ah, man, my friend's always trying to drown me as a prank. Only to find the mansion a towering metal citadel. The X-Men appear all metal as well, and they tell him that the metal protects them from feelings and pain and humanity. They cover him in metal plates as he feels free of sorrow. Then it disappears and he collapses to the ground crying.
I personally really enjoyed the towel attacking him because I could not figure out what it was. I was like, is that a worm? What is that?
Thought it was a monster. Yeah.
It was 2 or 3 panels, and it was only when I think we got a thought bubble of him being like, the towel's attacking me. That I was like, oh, okay. And like, I do like the idea of a world where anything can happen. And like the sort of mechanized X-Men are somewhat unsettling. I just feel like there were so many other, anything else could have attacked them.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It's the X-Men, but shiny. It's a pretty thin metaphor, I think. There's also, so there's a moment when the tower shoots up in front of him over a matter of seconds, and the narrator compares it to a time-lapse video of wheat growing out of the ground. Apparently, Peter, who's a former wheat farmer, saw a video of this, and it says, excited and unsettled by it. He's disgusted by the idea of time-lapse wheat videos.
The metaphor that runs through this, that Louise Simonson weaves in, is that Kurt and Peter are for some reason talking about the Wizard of Oz. Like, Kurt calls him Tin Man, and then they just kind of like bounce back and forth about how Kurt's been watching too much of Wizard of Oz.
And he's like, I wish I didn't have does he say, I wish I didn't have a brain? He's like, I wish I didn't have a brain, or I wish I didn't have a heart.
I think
I wouldn't have to deal with all of this.
Yeah, right. And then that's what the theme of these couple pages ends up being. And he's like, no, I am a human. Oh, I don't want to be a Tin Man. But for the moment, it's like, why are they talking about fucking Wizard of Oz for 5 panels?
Again, the metaphor is thin.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any thicker.
No.
Let's keep going. Page 9. We're back to. Oh yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing. When he's turning metal, Storm says the world is a hard place, and we got to be hard too. And I just want to note that is the theme of the X-Men at this time in 1985 too. That is what they're constantly talking about, and it'll only get more after the Mutant Massacre.
Sounds bleak.
Yeah, pretty bleak.
Let's keep going. Page 9. We're back to Ed Bryant and Brent Anderson.
Missed these
with
guys.
Dan Green, Phil Felix, and Bob Sharon. Storm, the real Storm, lets us know that Peter has collapsed in tears. She lets Magneto know that Peter appears to be the second victim of this mysterious enemy. They both feel helpless. No time for that now, though, as the first victim, Kitty, is back to form and starving.
Wolverine.
This is such an odd couple of pages.
It really is.
Wolverine scarfing down a banana.
And her being like, nothing will make me feel better like my favorite soup. And
that's not your
there's
soup.
There's a whole soup aside going on. And then Kurt's like, are you high? Because anybody who talks about her famous chicken soup that much is definitely high.
Oh man, I can't keep my eyes off this Wolverine just housing this banana. He doesn't even have dialogue in this whole sequence because he's just there like
he's just eating the banana. Incredible that it took us only 9 pages to get to a really inappropriate use of the word starving, considering the context of this.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Alex, you want to take us to the next one? This one's a little treat.
All right, so this one is Stephen King and Berni Wrightson with Jeff Jones, Tom Orzechowski. How'd I do?
Yeah,
and
perfect.
Christy Shield. Kitty walks off to the fridge to get some food when a large cloaked man with withered hands stops her. He touches her face, and she suddenly appears to be dying of starvation, begging the man for food. He hands her a delicious plate of corn, mashed potatoes, and steak, but when she touches it, it rots, maggots sprouting from its decay. He pulls his hood back to reveal a rotting skeletal face and tells her his name is Hungry. Really takes the edge off of it. And then she collapses in fear and starvation as Nightcrawler arrives to help. I didn't realize these were the Stephen King pages, but that's so on the nose. They were like, we got to have a spooky part. Let's bring Stephen King in to do the guy that looks like death.
And he just wants to do he just wants this death guy to be making puns and goofy little, he says, good food, good meat, good God, let's eat. He's just right. It's so Stephen King to just do something so stupid and scary at the same time.
I mean, Creepshow wasn't too far in the rearview mirror for him at this point.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I'm in the comic milieu. I will do some Crypt Keeper jams right here.
He's doing he introduces himself as misery's maitre d', the chef of starvation, waiter to the waifs of the world, hash slinger to the homeless, which is extremely Crypt Keeper.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So apparently they asked Stephen King to write 3 pages of a comic book, and he returned with 5,000 words. So Chris Claremont and Nocenti had to cut it down to the 500 or so that we get.
He wrote a New Yorker feature when they told him to write a couple pages over there.
I want to see that fucking script though, so bad.
Oh god, it would be awesome.
And the art here is incredible. This is the first moment of this comic where the art is kind of breathtaking, where you're like, holy shit.
Art is Berni Wrightson, who is the co-creator of Swamp Thing with Len Wein. Did a lot of horror adaptations, some really cool adaptations of Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft. He did the comic adaptations of the Creepshow movie and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Okay, so him and Stephen King maybe already knew each other at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure they at least shook hands.
So, pages 13 and 14, Bill Mantlo. Oof.
Oh, no.
And Charles Vess. I guess he's going by Charlie Vess here. He's not quite the Charles Vess that we will eventually know. But Jahi Muth, Janice Chang, and Christy Shield also work on this one. It's Kurt's turn to meet Hungry as he's transported to the past when he tries to attend to Kitty. He finds himself living through his own painful memories, his parents abandoning him, being raised in the circus, having to kill his brother. His faith starts to falter when an angel appears to him, offering him redemption for the whole world. All he has to do is crucify himself. He rejects the idea as blasphemy, but the angel guilts him about living comfortably while so many go hungry. And besides, she asks, who would miss a demon like him? As the X-Men watch, he collapses.
I'm a little confused about Hungry's motivations here.
I can't understand why.
I'm sure we'll figure it out by the end of the book.
Well, okay, yeah. What is your understanding at this point?
I mean, it seems like what he's trying, if I were to take Hungry's behavior just on face value, he's trying to reveal himself to them so they can go have a fight, right? It seems like he's tormenting them a little bit so that they can figure out who he is and go fight him. but they don't.
Pretty classic.
I don't. But like, I don't think that Hungry actually wants to fight the X-Men, because the X-Men will inevitably kick its butt.
And if like he is feeding off of famine and misery, why is he guilting the X-Men so much about not doing more for famine?
Right.
Like, if they,
why is he talking to the X-Men in the first place? They're actually loaded with cash.
Yeah, this is a weird one. This is, I think, where, well, if the premise hadn't fallen apart yet, this is definitely the moment where it's like, where as there's, you can't read this and not start to go, wait, what the fuck is happening?
What is this about? Yeah. And of course, it's Bill Mantlo. It's quite a drop off coming directly from Stephen King.
It's okay. Bill Mantlo does not make fun of people with disabilities in these 2 pages. It's his only piece of writing where he ever hasn't.
Yeah, that had to be difficult. Okay, let's keep moving. We go back to Ed Bryant and Brent Anderson on page 15 with Tom Palmer, Phil Felix, and Bob Sharon. Magneto prepares to use Cerebro to find the entity as Rogue searches the air. Wolverine tries to scent the creature on the ground, and Phoenix scans psychically. Storm, meanwhile, tends to the victims in the medical wing. Just another checking in.
Okay.
Not much to talk
nothing
about
to say,
here.
Nothing to say about here. But, you know, this next one is, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about.
I'm getting all the good ones. I get all the good recaps.
Yeah, you sure are.
So pages 16 through 18 are Alan Moore with Richard Corben, Jim Novak, and Michelle Wrightson. And the recap is Magneto reverently dons the Cerebro helmet, but can't sense the presence of an enemy. A grotesque monster appears in front of him anyway and punches him right in the brain. Suddenly, he's lying on a battlefield while troops around him chant, "Glory to Magneto!" Toad and Mastermind tell him he's victorious, that they finally wiped out every human. He's joined and praised by the rest of the old Brotherhood, Wolverine, the Morlocks, and even Hitler. I didn't know that he was part of the old Brotherhood.
I didn't know he was a mutant.
They demand a victory speech, and a dazed Magneto tries to deliver one. But as he speaks, hundreds of human corpses rise from the ground, overwhelming the army of mutants and surrounding Magneto. As they overwhelm him, too, he reflects on all the innocent blood he shed. I did not even have the right to scream, he says, as the corpses tear him to pieces.
Holy shit.
Whew.
So this was what I was talking about at the beginning, like the one place where they had, Alan Moore is like, hey, rather than just patting ourselves on the back for caring about starving children in Africa, let's talk about the root causes here. This is our fault. This is all colonialism. This is exactly what we did to the African people as Europeans conquered that continent. I think these pages are really effective, actually.
It is extremely Alan Moore. And just a critique of colonialism in general and reminding folks that it's actually genocide.
And Magneto like falters while he's giving his speech. He's like, and there's like even the dash. He's like, and even if it were otherwise, there are none left to accuse us. Like that history is written by the victors thing. That everyone's praising him, but the truth is when you build even a glorious empire on suffering, that's always going to come back to haunt you in some ways. Like, but he has Blob say it like, we had to zap most of their crops and animals, but that's our kids' problem. They'll deal with it one day.
Yeah.
Really,
it's haunting.
They give Alan Moore 3 pages and he fucking makes the comic good.
But that doesn't last for very long.
No.
No.
Yeah, what did you think of these pages, Alex?
One of the things I really liked about these pages in particular is how sort of ghoulish all of these semi-recognizable characters to me were.
Yes.
Like they made Toad look so horrifying. And the Blob looks really weird and gross, and he's like shirtless for some reason.
Yeah, he's always shirtless.
He's gulping down a burger.
And like everybody's faces are kind of like funhouse mirror distended and big and weird looking.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Richard Corben at the time was doing a lot of illustrations for Heavy Metal magazine, the artist on these panels. So it tracks that this is really like kind of gross and cartoony in a grotesque way. Also, what an extreme high seeing Toad for the first time in 10 years and then immediately seeing Hitler and getting to that extreme low.
Yeah, I think this is the only time Alan Moore and Richard Corben worked together, but Alan Moore praises Richard Corben all the time. So I don't know, it's interesting, I think.
Yeah, very good. It's also, so this is one of the ones that Oxfam apparently specifically said was disgusting. And there is, you can see when corpses rise from the dead, they're clearly, for the most part, African corpses. They're in Africa, so it's African people being raised. I can see
there's some like exaggerated racial features, I guess.
Yeah, there's also a lot of spears lying around, which has some implications. It's I get it.
It's just a shame because I think this was the most
poignant
take in the whole comic, and it's a shame that there's this sort of imagery in it.
Yeah. Well,
all right. So pages 19 and 21, we'll move on to Ann Nocenti and Mike Kaluta, Al Milgram, Lois Buhalis, and Glynis Oliver. Work on this one.
This is, we know her very well as Glynis Ween. Unfortunately, the
divorced
Glynis and Len love story has come to an end.
Aww. In her room, Phoenix is scanning for the entity when suddenly she feels the entire world's thoughts invade her head. As she struggles against it, she finds herself back in the future as a hound. She's overwhelmed by guilt, and dozens of identical Rachels surround her, calling her a traitor, a Judas, a murderer. She begs for forgiveness when her mom, Jean Grey, appears as the Dark Phoenix. Rachel wants to make her mom proud, and Phoenix says all she has to do is alleviate the world's suffering by killing everyone, and then blasts Rachel in a burst of flame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Couple interesting notes about the staff here. Ann Nocenti, we know her as an ex-editor already. She does a lot of the titles we're reading. She also has a great run on Daredevil as a writer in the 80s. She co-creates Longshot, Mojo, Typhoid Mary, and puts like some of those stories into.
Have we talked about, okay, so since we're recording this out of order, I have to check. Have we talked about Longshot yet? No, we're about to talk about her Longshot miniseries, and man, is it fucking weird.
Awesome. And then Mike Kaluta, the artist, pretty generic comic book artist, but he is the godfather of Brennan Lee Mulligan.
What?
The host of Dimension 20 on Dropout TV.
Yeah, one of those Dropout comedians.
Nepo baby.
There's not much to say about this one either. It's pretty much what Rachel Summers is always going through in most of her appearances up to this point, and it's functional.
Ooh, it's my turn to get a good one.
Oh yeah,
like my two least favorite people together at last: Harlan Ellison and Frank Miller.
Page 22 to 24 is Harlan Ellison and Frank Miller. Inks by Bill Sienkiewicz, which is very cool. And
that
then
is very cool, but it doesn't. I mean, it does not come through. Really, the trademark Bill Sienkiewicz style does not come through in these particular panels.
Not at all.
To inform it.
I think, not to be a full nerd, but I think it does put a little extra detail into Frank Miller's art, which he isn't always great with. Like he seems to be doing a lot of broad strokes here.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's definitely Frank Miller's work. Wolverine stalks the property, only able to sense the enemy through his instinct. Things go dark and cold, and he can smell his own fear. He finds himself suddenly nude and powerless, vulnerable and human. There's a schism in the narration blocks, alternating from normal and yellow to red and menacing, as he finds himself confronted with a faceless demonic form of the Wolverine, his id personified. The two fight, Logan finding himself no match for the might and sharp claws of his inner animal. But that all changes when Logan pulls a unicorn trap maneuver.
Unicorn trap.
Getting the Wolverine's claws stuck in a tree and then using his leverage to turn its own claws against itself. The animal is defeated and Wolverine stands victorious and psychically intact.
Was Wolverine at this point just like Wolverine as we know him today, like the hottest shit in the X-Men franchise, and so they had to make him do cool stuff? Like they couldn't let him get his ass kicked?
Yes. And like Rachel Summers, almost all of his stories are about this exact thing. The animal versus the man. And am I really an animal or am I really a man or am I an animal? There's some funny captions here as he's transforming where they say, they do specify here a naked Logan.
Yeah.
And this is talks about all the things that made him a mutant changing to human. They say hair normal, no claws.
that fucked up hair is a mutant power, actually.
Yeah, it's like I don't think Marvel wanted us to think of his hair as super weird. I think but according to this, yeah, as soon as he's not a mutant anymore, his hair's just fucking normal.
Unicorn trap is so funny because when I think of unicorn used anywhere outside of like, you know, children's fantasy, I think of its use in the kink community, which is meant to denote a person who is willing to engage a couple in a threesome.
Yes.
So I was like, unicorn trap. He's gonna capture himself, and then he's gonna get down, I guess.
He's already found an alternate version of himself. He just needs one more.
This was a conversation we were having on Amityville the other day. Like, what would you be sexually attracted to your clone? My co-host Caroline Thompson said yes, incredibly, and I called her a big nasty freak.
Interesting. I think yes, mildly.
I don't think I would.
Not like a lot, but mildly.
I would I would be interested in like kind of hanging out with me, kind of. This is a novelty.
Real fast.
But I would be like, oh, this guy's fucking insufferable.
Yeah.
When's he gonna stop complaining?
But like, if I were to have a threesome, the ideal third would be an exact clone of myself. I just don't think I'd interact that much.
Okay, I can get down with that. That makes sense.
Fair.
That's what we've decided to talk about here.
That's a very fair and rational way to look at it, Matt.
So this is such a weird. The other weird thing about this is it's all done in captions, but there's dialogue.
Yeah, the narrator is like telling us what the dialogue, which might be a symptom of having an actual writer writing this instead of a comic book writer.
Yeah. And clearly trying to mimic like the caption heavy internal dialogue stuff that Frank Miller does with Wolverine, Frank Miller and Chris Claremont do with Wolverine. But it's just weird that then there's dialogue in quotes and not in word balloons. It's kind of just, I felt it was strange. And I think the question that Harlan Ellison is asking here is, so I was making fun of that. It's like the idea that every Wolverine appearance at this point is the beast versus the man. But the other thing he's asking here is a little bit more interesting, which is Logan really a tough guy? Or is he just got powers? And I think it would have been more interesting if the answer was no, he's not. And if Wolverine had beat Logan's ass, I think that would have been a more interesting little sequence. I don't know what you guys think.
I wasn't smart enough to catch the subtext, so.
Well, I think he's so much.
That would be interesting, but I don't think editorial would ever allow something like that. Because he's like, everything we've seen of Wolverine so far is like the Clint Eastwood, stoic, locked jaw.
Yeah.
This would be a good death type.
Mm-hmm.
Harlan Ellison, by the way, if you don't know, I would say just read up on the guy. He's very influential in 50s and 60s sci-fi, credited as a leader of that new wave science fiction or speculative fiction movement.
Right.
Like him or dislike him, his personal life is fascinating.
He's kind of known as one of the biggest assholes in the literary world and has been for like 30 to 50 years.
He's notoriously litigious. He's held on to people's unpublished short stories for decades, refusing to publish them. But he is also, his hands are literally on everything. He wrote for Star Trek, The Twilight Zone, everything.
Oh, yeah. He what's largely considered the best episode of Star Trek, right?
Yes. Yes.
Forgetting the name of it, but
me too.
Star Trek
yes,
podcast.
one of the Star Trek.
I think he wrote. He also wrote some Next Generation stuff, and of course, he wrote "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream," which is like an incredibly famous short story.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And a mediocre graphic adventure, point and click graphic adventure game.
Oh right, doesn't it have like H.R. Giger
style? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's very. I don't know. Did H.R. Giger have something to do with it? It's got H.R. Giger style art for sure, but. Anyway.
He also fought Frank Sinatra.
Like physically?
I think it was strictly verbal and maybe a little pushing, but apparently Frank Sinatra commented on his shoes and he was like, "Fuck you." Wild guy.
That's like the kind of thing that will get you murdered by the mafia. I don't know why that was a good idea. All right. Pages 25 and 26, Chris Claremont and Brian Bolland. And this says Craig Russell, and then in parentheses, is this P. Craig Russell?
Yeah,
and you guys are going to have to fill me in on that one.
Sorry. So, Pat filled in all these credits, and I saw Craig Russell, and I didn't know P. Craig Russell is like an incredible artist. He does all sorts of cool stuff like later, like in the 80s into the 90s, and I didn't realize that he started as just an inker. Anyway, sorry.
And then also Lois Buhalis and Glynis Oliver. And Storm is in some kind of carnival funhouse as a tall carnival barker dressed in white shouts at her to follow him into the House of Mirrors. As she does, he taunts her for being powerless and unable to lead the X-Men. In the distorted funhouse mirrors, she sees various images of herself: a pregnant Earth mother with curlers in her hair, an all-American cheerleader dancing with pom-poms, a happy homemaker baking a cake with horn-rimmed glasses, a free spirit in the form of a literal pixie, a wanton laying on a bed in a red lace negligee.
Yeah.
And she yells stop as she's suddenly in bondage gear. She's not a toy or a plaything, she tells him, returning to normal. It's then that she gets hit in the face with a pie.
It's a weird one, but that's a good ending gag.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
This is one of the ones where Oxfam also got on them. I think every picture of Storm here is like a fetish picture.
Well, yeah, Chris Claremont is so horned up for Storm at all times.
Yeah. But like, she's in a cheerleader outfit. She's got the one image where she's got a real big belly and breasts. She's baking a cake in like cat-eye glasses. She's nude as a pixie. She's dressed as a harlot. She's dressed in bondage gear. Like I want to say harlot, literal harlot. Like when they used to call them harlots. This is the imagery that they
used. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild that they gave Chris Claremont only 2 pages, but if this is what he was going to do with them, maybe it was for the best.
Yeah.
And granted, he did plot the whole thing, but yeah, I mean, this is just Claremont's horniness for Storm all over the page.
This was an odd couple of pages. I was every time I see something like this, and especially in this particular sort of era of comics where they don't really interrogate the sort of horniness that appears on the page. It's just like,
oh yeah,
it's horniness for horniness' sake. I'm like, come on, guys.
There's always the one I wouldn't say redeeming attribute, but the one consistent attribute with Chris Claremont is that he gives them a story reason to be mostly nude. So in this case, it's just the villain is making her nude.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a very thin story reason, but it is. Okay. Pages 27 and 28 are Joe Duffy and John Bolton with Ron Zalm.
Oh, yeah. John Bolton does his own inks here. He also does his own lettering, which is fascinating. That's indie comics shit.
Storm chases the pie thrower down a hallway into a big circus tent where she finds a mountain of pies. Another pie hits her square in the face, and her enemy reveals itself to be a clown, taunting her, daring her to join the food fight. In a rage, she picks up a pie herself and prepares to get violent, but is suddenly surrounded by images of starving people drawn in stark, contrasting black and white inks. She realizes her mistake. This food can help people, but she's only been seeing it as a weapon. The clown demands war, but Aurora starts giving the pies to the starving people instead. Interesting.
I loved this because this is written Exquisite Corpse-style, and if you're Joe Duffy, what are you given to work with here? The last thing you saw was Storm getting hit in the face with a pie. You have to figure out how to write a way out of this. I think saying like, oh yeah, we're using food as a weapon when we should be using it to feed people is like it's a pretty apt and one level deeper metaphor than most of this comic goes for.
Also, this was the sort of the gaunt people in these illustrations did not hit the same way as once we actually get to Africa in this comic, which feels orders of magnitude more tasteless.
Right. Here
yeah.
They kind of
they're more like they're
like
less meant to represent starving African children than they are to represent sort of ghostly withering figures. Right. And it feels a lot, and like I really like the actual art of that character.
Yeah,
of those characters.
It's very like stark black and white. It's inks only.
I think giving the story to Storm is also kind of poignant because, right, like her powers specifically can be used as a weapon or used to bring literal life, right? So that must be something she actually struggles with internally. Like, I think this was a very thoughtful little piece.
Yeah. Also very funny to see Storm wielding a pie in a rage.
So angry too. Yeah.
Moving along, we'll talk about pages 29 to 30 by Mike Byrne and Steve Rude. Also Carl Potts, Diana Albers, and Marie Severin. Storm comes to in the medical bay, shaken but full of resolve. She wakes the X-Men and lectures them out of their feelings of hopelessness. They must resist this entity which twists their innermost selves. While Rogue wonders why it hasn't hit her yet, Storm and Wolverine stir everyone into action. They're going after the entity, and Rachel thinks she knows where it is.
I think it's interesting to note, I didn't when it was their segments, but it's interesting to note that Storm and Wolverine are the only two who overcome the entity in their stories.
Yeah. The favorite characters.
Yeah.
The thing that I felt during this particular segment was just like, I feel like a good version of Exquisite Corpse is kind of doing a yes and building on top of a thing.
Okay.
But we've got all these traumatized characters, and then Wolverine and Storm just go cut it out, and they're like, all right, trauma over. Let's go solve a problem.
It's time for part 2 of the comic, guys.
Well, you might be delighted to know that Mike Byrne, the writer, absolutely sucks. We can dunk on this guy a bunch if we want to. He and Steve Rude, the artist, worked together on a series called Nexus at the time, which was fairly popular, and they were kind of borrowed from that. But Mike Byrne went on to start making and crowdfunding a bunch of right-wing comics in the early 2020s. He joined that side of Comicsgate and made a bunch of Blue Lives Matter comics. Really fucking sucks.
A gripping and explosive graphic novel from Mike Byrne and artist Richard Bonk called The Private American. I'm all set.
Yeah. He's got one called Florida Man also.
Private American, it seems, is a vigilante who is killing the Mexican drug cartel.
Great.
Yeah, there's a lot of like human traffickers that pop up in that one too. I think it's
great. I only know Mike Barron as like the Punisher guy. He was like the main Punisher guy in the, I guess, late 80s, around this time probably.
Yeah, a little later than this, I think.
Oh, okay.
Not too far out. Which tracks?
When Punisher was, before Punisher was ever interesting in any way, when it was just a guy who shot quote unquote criminals.
Page 31 and 32. Denny O'Neil with Bret Blevins, Al Williamson, Janice Chang, and Dinah Grizunas. That was the best I'm going to do on that one. The Blackbird shoots eastward through the sky as all the X-Men on board quietly reflect on their fear of the psychic entity. Rogue especially. She's the only one that hasn't had to face it yet and imagines it's because it has something even worse in store for her. The plane comes to a landing in the precise location of Africa, where the X-Men, wearing desert robes and keffiyehs, find a village of hundreds of starving people. They're torn on whether they should stay and try and help these people, despite there being so little they can do, or continue pursuing the entity. Goes way off the rails here.
We're here, guys. Yeah. Africa.
This is a really tough one.
I think this is maybe the most racist one, right?
Yes.
There's a bunch of starving, quote, Africans. They are either nude or wrapped in just rags.
Yeah. And like, there's nothing on any horizon. It is just a vast desert with one hut built in the middle.
Yeah, as if that's where people live. As if people live in the middle of a desert with nothing around them in one hut, which has like 19 people crowded into it.
I did like that they drew Wolverine wearing like a Bedouin head covering, and you can see the points of his mask poking it up. I thought that was like a really funny touch.
Yeah, he does look like Batman. It's great.
But really, there's not much to recommend for this this entire scene, which goes on for a few more pages, is really just, it's like poverty porn for middle-class Americans.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a great word for it.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of the next couple pages, they're written by George R.R. Martin. It's 33 to 35, and drawn by Herb Trimpe.
Yeah.
Plus Sal Buscema, John Costanza, and Glynis Oliver. A carrier plane arrives with supplies for the starving Africans and lands close to the mass of people. They're moving too fast, though, and the blades are likely to cut the crowd to ribbons. So the X-Men spring into action to save everyone. Then they begin unloading supplies, feeding the hungry, comforting the dying, burying the dead, and entertaining the children, whatever they can do to help. What? To introduce superhero conflict, they're just like, oh, the plane is moving too fast and the crowd is pushing its way towards the blades.
The whole crowd is running into a jet engine. We have to help them.
And so what's his name? Nightcrawler tries to teleport them, but it's too many people to teleport. Yeah. He says, I've never tried to teleport this many people, which seems weird. Like, he's been around for a minute. Seems like he would have done that by now. And then Rachel comes along and is like, I can use my psychic abilities to keep these people away from this plane propeller.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it goes.
She builds. Now, I'm no scientist, but she builds a force field in front of the jet engine while it's still, the propellers are spinning at full speed. That's going to cause some issues, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going to break some shit.
That's going to cause a vacuum.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
George R.R. Martin, number one, names Stan Lee as one of his greatest influences.
Interesting.
He says more than Shakespeare, Stan Lee inspired him. He had several letters published in 60s Fantastic Four issues.
You can find those online. They're great.
At this time, he was mostly just a short story writer and TV writer. He was writing for the Twilight Zone revival. He wrote for the short-lived Max Headroom series.
I loved that show.
Yeah,
I never saw it, but I This was doing this research. I was like, oh, they made a show out of that?
It's really odd. It's like super dark, and it's set in this dystopian future that's very RoboCop-y.
Okay.
And the folks that were doing most of the creation and design of it were the people who went on to make the ill-fated Super Mario Brothers movie in like 92.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Okay.
So they wanted to make, so like they made this like dark dystopian world with Max Headroom, and then they wanted to do something similar with Super Mario, and then of course Nintendo did not want them to do that.
Of course,
so it was like constant fighting, and they were rewriting on the fly. There's a lot of very well documented, interesting stuff about how that production not only fucked up the movie, but also like totally destroyed their careers.
I had no idea. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So if you ever get a chance, I think there's a BuzzFeed feature from like 10 years ago. That's them interviewing the directors. They were a husband and wife, and they completely ruined their careers trying to make this fiasco of a Super Mario Brothers movie.
That's amazing.
But they started on the Max Headroom show, which I loved, because in that show, it wasn't like Max Headroom was the silly guy who sells Coke. He was the consciousness of a reporter that was uploaded to like the globally connected internet, and is now just like causing trouble for this mega corporation that's trying to rule the world. Very interesting.
Yeah. And okay. I'm 100% sold.
Oh, the other thing I think we should say about this is that Herb Trimpe actually gives people like real clothes, like actual clothes. Maybe a little stereotypical still, but it's better than the fucking rags that Brett Blevins drew.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's an interesting thing here where Colossus almost gives up, because he's like, this is never ending. We're never going to like defeat the idea of hunger. And Wolverine is like, hey, glory can wait, bub. This is more important. Sorry, glory can wait, bub. This is more important.
Nice. Excellent.
Which is an interesting sort of philosophical concept, right? Like, hey, success, like triumphing over the thing that you are fighting, is for you, right? That's about you and your glory and your ego. Actually doing the helping, the process of it, is what we're here for. That's about them, and that's about the people you're helping.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting, I don't know, little philosophical bit.
It's George R.R. Martin as hell.
That's true. You're right.
All right, let's get into pages 36 and 37 by Bruce Jones and Gray Morrow. Gray Morrow also inked. We have Joe Rosen and Ann Nocenti doing colors, which I just got to say stands out there. She's not a natural colorist. After days of effort, the X-Men are finding that they've barely made a dent on the starvation problem. Rogue tries to feed a boy soup, but he's too weak to even eat and dies in her arms. That's not your soup.
That's not your soup.
It's too much for her. It's too much for her. She remembers why they came here in the first place. If she can't solve world hunger, she can at least take down the entity. While the rest of the X-Men sleep, she absorbs each of their powers in preparation for battle.
I hated that kid dying. I thought it was like probably my least favorite part of this comic.
Right. Did you actually need that? Did you need to go that far?
He died before he even touched. He was like going to touch her face, and we all know what happens if you touch Rogue's skin, but he died before he even touched me, is what she says. And then she breaks down. It feels to me like it's like the most moral grandstanding bullshit I've ever read.
Right.
It's really just awful.
Also, the artist clearly meant for Rogue to have accidentally killed this kid. And it was clearly like an editorial thing. Like no.
Whoa.
All right, hold on. You have to write a line of dialogue that says he died before he touched your face. Yeah, this one's not.
It's strange. Also, they go back to the idea of Rogue kissing people to absorb their powers, which was her origin. But they say through a combination of kissing and touching her teammates, because she's not allowed to kiss the girls. It's 1985.
Also, when she absorbs the little boy's memories, she's like, all I saw in his brain was a lifeless, empty void. That's so fucking dehumanizing. Like, wouldn't the better point there have been to talk about, like, oh, his thoughts are just like mine, only he, like, this is what I would have thought and felt had I been here dying my whole life, rather than like, oh, he's just a nothing.
I thought it was because he was dead already, that she was like, oh, I didn't get memories, I just got a black void.
I thought, okay, maybe, and that would be better, but I thought it was saying something a little more problematic, which is just like, oh, because his life has just been starvation, he doesn't have an inner life.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know which one it is.
I wouldn't put it past.
Hopefully I'm wrong, but it sucks that I even would have to worry that they would do that.
And then Gray Morrow, the artist on this, is the co-creator of Man-Thing. There's our interesting fact. We got the co-creator of Swamp Thing and the co-creator of Man-Thing. Both.
Do you think that they were unhappy to have to work together because of the blatant similarities between the two?
Yes, there's a lot of history there.
There's so much. Yeah, the controversy and the fighting about Man-Thing and Swamp Thing is wild.
The two writers were roommates.
No, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
And throughout their life, they went back. Both of them went back and forth about who stole, whether they stole or whether it was just parallel thought. And it's clearly stole. They're 100% the same.
Yeah, they're the same thing. I mean, they differentiate themselves very quickly, like in terms of the characterization, but they're clearly the same thing.
Yeah, the same seed.
Yeah. This is me, right? Or no, this is Alex.
I think this is Alex. Yeah.
Every time.
Guys, I'm the only person who can handle this. This movie on the show.
I can't count to 3.
Pages 38 and 39. Steve Englehart with Paul. Can I get a pronouncer on this? Gulacy?
I say Gulacy.
Gulacy.
Bob Layton, Ron Zalmi, and George Russos. Rogue, full of all the X-Men's powers, flies off against Storm's protestations. She finds a temple buried in the sand, and when she enters it, a green scaly creature attacks her. It grabs her skin, and she begins absorbing it, but it's too much. I thought that the rogue that has every X-Man's powers and is basically like each limb is its own X-Man, it looked pretty good. I thought that looked pretty cool.
She's got like the blue fuzzy face. She's got the Colossus arm, and the other arm is Wolverine's arm.
Okay, guys, but why did it change her clothes? That's my only question here.
Because she's only got 5 limbs to change.
Because it's fucking cool, I guess. Yeah, okay.
That's none of my business. I just it's private.
Maybe she stole all their costumes too, and then sewed them together in a
just
mountain.
Real quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just a fight. It's just a little fight.
I do think it is very rogue to be like, everybody's forgotten that there's a bad guy here, so I'm just going to go and take care of him.
Right. Yeah. Very headstrong. Very. What's the word?
Impetuous.
Yeah. Impetuous. That's a good one. Yeah.
She's also the only person who has not faced this thing's wrath yet.
Right.
So
right.
She doesn't necessarily know what she's getting into.
That's true.
Right. This one written by Steve Englehart. You remember this guy? He had Richard Nixon in a Klan outfit shoot himself in the head in the Oval Office.
Yes. That was so good. Yeah.
He is one of the keystones of like the 70s Mary Marvel bullpen era, and probably he and Steve Gerber are the most outspoken, the ones that had a lot of fun weaving politics into their comics.
And didn't he have to like promise whoever the edit was, like Len Wein was the editor in chief at the time, and he had to promise that it wasn't actually Richard Nixon?
Yes, yeah. They don't say the words president or Richard Nixon. It's just
there's a guy in an oval-shaped office wearing a Klan outfit who shoots himself in the head.
And then, like, 2 years later in an interview, he was like, oh, yeah, that was Richard Nixon.
Obviously, it was Richard Nixon, yeah. Pages 40 and 41, Jim Stupid and Alan Weiss with Joe Rubenstein, John Morelli, and Christy Scheel. Jim Stupid finally puts pen to paper in this one.
Oh, my God.
Storm finds Rogue all fucked up looking in an ancient tomb, completely possessed by the entity. Still with all of the X-Men's powers, too. The entity senses her also, and the two fight. Storm demands her friend Rogue back, but the entity has finally found a physical form and has no intention of going back. Storm runs from the entity, finding the tomb strangely familiar. She's able to navigate it with ease. The entity seems to recognize her, too, as one of the kind that tried to destroy her in ancient days.
Oh, no.
Storm wonders if this could be a genetic memory from her African ancestors. Catch her breaths. But the entity eventually catches up to her and prepares to destroy her. Aurora reveals her plan through a thought bubble. She's been stalling long enough, hopefully, for the X-Men to start waking up and regaining their powers. God damn it.
He's just the absolute... This is why we don't say his name on the podcast. Immediately, characters just start saying the metaphors out loud, too, as soon as he starts writing it. There's no subtlety here.
Right.
I want her body. It is a chore to manifest and maintain a physical body of my own.
Yeah.
I do have to say, though, there is a panel on page 41 of possessed Rogue that is so cool looking. She's like bloated, and she's got like sores all over her face, and she's got fangs.
Yeah,
she looks so good. Yeah, it's really good.
All the X-Men powers, but also two green tentacles waving out of her back.
Yeah.
The art here, is great. And even the action here is great. Storm lands a really awesome kick. I mean, it gets deflected, but like at least the art is good here.
Yeah, it's animated. They also, Alan Weiss leans into her cat eyes feature too. Even at one point drawing them as like glowing in the dark.
Oh, right. That's what that was. I hadn't thought about why. I thought that was just a coloring mistake, but you're right.
Yeah, it looks like she has laser eyes a little bit, but he's trying. He's also the co-creator of Calypso.
Okay.
Craven's on again, off again lover.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one of my favorite Marvel facts is when they were doing Kiss comics, he was one of the artists. Very few people have penciled Kiss for Marvel.
And they put their blood in the ink. That's the old rumor that they spread, and I don't know if it's true or not.
All right, we are in the home stretch, folks. Should I?
Well, I also want to talk about the metaphor here. Is just like the point is that this is an ancient god who makes quote Africans starve. Like that's who this guy is. That's who the villain's been. I'm like an ancient god mutant entity thing, and the Africans again fought him once and failed, and then tried to appease him by creating this temple to him, and that didn't work. So he's the one who's been making them starve all this time, which is first ridiculous, like absolutely absurd. But second of all, sort of like absolving the colonizers of any guilt and placing that guilt then on either a faceless, non-existent entity or the African people themselves.
Yeah, for having tried to banish it.
Sucks.
Well,
yeah, pretty gross. Not much more to say about that.
Yeah. Let's get back to having fun. I think there's a fight next.
Page 42 to 44, Mike Grell and Jackson Guici, Steve Leialoha, Rick Parker, and George Rousseau's helping out. One by one, the X-Men awaken and begin to attack the creature inhabiting Rogue's body. With each one that awakes, the creature loses that X-Man's power. They eventually subdue it and free Rogue from its influence, but they can't defeat the entity itself. The entity is an ultimate primal mutant on the psychic plane who feeds off of human misery.
Just chucking more and more words in until somebody's like, okay, now it makes sense.
Ultimate, primal, mutant on the psychic plane. Conclusion is that it will never go away.
Yeah.
I have a complaint, and Matt, in a fairly recent issue, we got into this a bit. This is just a blatant misunderstanding of how Rogue's powers work. It is not like the power transfers collaboratively from the person she's absorbing from to her and then returns in proportion. Like the
right. That's
amount
how
of time
they're interpreting it here.
The amount of time it takes, which I think one of the listeners argued with us about, it should be proportional, right? So you would see somebody getting their powers back around the same time that Rogue lost hers. But across these last two chunks, she's very explicitly been like, oh,
when they wake up from being unconscious,
I'll get my power back.
They get their power back, and I lose
it's a very weird way to understand how Rogue's powers work.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's not an exchange.
Right. It's not, you're not siphoning it from them while because they're asleep.
Not super exciting, but we do have a couple of big names here. We've met Jackson Butch Guichi before. He's been in New Mutants. We debated the pronunciation of his name.
I still say Geese.
He's also the co-creator of Resurrection Man in DC, which is interesting.
Okay.
And then Mike Grell, our writer, actually in the 70s worked with Denny O'Neil to relaunch the Green Arrow, Green Lantern title. Absolutely legendary. He's writing here, but was drawing that. He's also responsible for launching the Batman family title.
That was the Longbow Hunters series, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, this is some high quality comic folk on this one.
Yeah, and they just get a weird fight scene.
Okay, let's see. 40 pages 45
We're at
48.
the end, folks.
Archie Goodwin with Howard Chaykin, Walt Simonson, Ken Bruzenak, and Leslie Zoller. The X-Men return to the starving village, and relief flights continue pouring in. Despite their continued efforts, this village still starves, and hunger, kind of blending the entity and the real world problem here, still exists all over the world. What was the point of even coming here? Storm tries to clarify, but Kitty has the winning argument here. Maybe if you're like Mother Teresa, you could spend your life here, saving as many people as possible, but most of us aren't saints. I don't know if there is a way of winning, so maybe I'll just keep unloading these planes and try not to think about it. Not everyone's sold until they're gathered around the fire that evening, when the metaphor comes together. After a few desperate attempts, a starving child in Rogue's arms finally gathers the strength to eat. He will live. All anyone can do is try to help, one person at a time, and hopefully inspire some hope.
What do we think? What do we think about this? Yeah. What do we think about this idea that it's like, well, this is a never-ending problem. Unless we want to dedicate all our time to it, the best we can do is help when we can, and then hope that it gets better one day.
Yeah, I mean, now I was only 4 months old at this time, as we talked about. So this is to the best of my memory.
What was your understanding when you read this comic at 4 months old?
A big push in the 80s for like improving the world was collective individual action, right? It was like, if everybody starts recycling or if everybody stops using aerosol cans, we can save the environment, that sort of stuff. Maybe that was more like late 80s, early 90s, but.
And, we did reduce littering by like an insane amount. We did reduce chlorofluorocarbons from aerosols to such an extent that the ozone layer isn't as big of a deal anymore. Like the collective action in the 80s actually did a lot of good, to be honest.
And to me, that's what they're applying here. They're saying like, hey, if everybody just does what they can around the world, we can solve world hunger, which isn't true. I think it's a lot more systemic than that, but
yes.
But
right, because there's not a shortage of food in the world. There is an unequal distribution of resources.
Yeah. And it tends to happen in places that have been pretty heavily colonized.
Right. This is the fault of this is colonization, which happened 100 years ago and continues to affect these places in myriad ways and probably will for generations to come.
Yeah.
And it is a solvable problem. It's not just we should just keep unloading these aid trucks or these aid planes situation, but
yeah.
That's a very pat ending to put on a thing that that could not be resolved by the collective brilliance of all of these comic book artists.
Yeah, and again, the only one who really had the courage to say that out loud was Alan Moore. But given that they're not going to call for global redistribution of resources or decolonization efforts or reparations, right? This is the only ending they can fucking this is the only fucking ending that they have any ability to give. Well, not ability, that's wrong. No, they could have done the other thing. They have the courage to do.
I think it's actually really interesting who they chose to end this here, especially considering that they chose Stan Lee to open it. Archie Goodwin has been with Marvel Comics forever at this point. He was the writer on the original Iron Man series, so he doesn't get the creator credit, but he is the one that made the character, as well as co-creating Luke Cage, Spider-Woman, Rachel Van Helsing. Right before Jim Stupid, he was editor-in-chief for a year he was like the last of that carousel of editors.
Yeah, when they had a different editor every few months.
And so they chose him to be like, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to need you to find a way to end this based on everything that comes before. Just sort of their anchor to make sure that this does wrap up neatly. And then Howard Chaykin is like the opposite. He was mentored by Gil Kane and Neil Adams, which is awesome.
Yeah, that was.
But he didn't do a ton of work for Marvel. He did pencil Roy Thomas's comic adaptation of Star Wars, which is awesome. But at this time, he was doing indie comics. He was writing and drawing American Flag, which was a futuristic consumerism satire that also had plenty of like cool action, but it was mainly about like, here's what the world is going to become because we are such gluttonous consumers. So they grabbed like a political indie guy to end it alongside Archie Goodwin.
Right.
Their hearts were in the right place, I think, but they were a couple of they were a bunch of like, this was a very, of all the ideas to do a exquisite corpse-style idea, like a premise with, probably the worst one.
Yeah. You could do a little less experimentation.
I mean, this is just a bunch of white liberal, like capitalist neoliberals, right? I'm sure maybe that's not how all of them saw themselves entirely, but that's kind of what that's how this whole thing reads. And
overall, so I think the approach to it is fascinating, maybe misplaced, but I love that they're trying something interesting here. And they also, part of the reason they did it was so every piece of work here is donated. Nobody got paid for the work. So having people do like 2 to 3 pages at a time for free rather than 50 pages, I think makes sense. And everyone, I'm trying to pull the seeds of good out of here. Everybody is doing their best work here. Like, people are clearly excited about this. I think the artists and the writers are both doing what they consider to be their best work. Whether or not we consider it to be their best work is a different story, but like, they're putting everything they have into this. It's just it comes out as sort of a pile of mashed potatoes. That's Exquisite Corpse, baby.
And that's Heroes for Hope, Marvel's Heroes for Hope, featuring the X-Men, starring the X-Men. I'm sorry, I got the title wrong. Also, there's a cool front cover by Art Adams and a cool back cover by Jim Starlin. Those are rad too, but we don't have much to say about those.
The Jim Starlin moment never happened in the comics. He just draws a cool picture of the X-Men
fighting vines and like a weird plant.
Yeah, I noticed that doesn't really happen in the comic at all. It doesn't look like anything that happened in the comic.
It's cool though.
It's cool. I want to see that comic. All right. Well, man, how do we deplane here? It's hard to spin out of this thing because it's like there's some goofy moments here, but it ends on such a bummer, both in the story and a bummer for us as people who understand what's problematic about the story.
Right.
So good news is that Marvel was able to send more than $500,000 to the American Friends Service Committee. It raised awareness to the degree that anything else raised awareness, but it raised actual impactful money at the time just for the sales. So,
and as we said, this is a little less racist than Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yeah.
Well,
perfect.
Alex Goldman.
On that note, bye guys.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. This was a lot of fun. Next time there's a culturally insensitive X-Men comic, you need to have me on.
You got it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's always fun to have you here, man. Thank you. Podcasts love to call people friends of the show. Can we officially call you friend of the show?
Yeah,
Alex
absolutely.
Goldman?
I am a friend of the show.
Yay!
I am honored to be a friend of the show.
Telling everybody.
I've been listening to Hyperfixed, which is always great, but I have not checked out your Amityville podcast yet, and now I will.
I've been listening to both, and I highly recommend, especially for our listeners. I think Amityville has a lot of common stuff.
If you're into This American Life-y kind of reported journalism stuff, Hyperfixed is right up your alley.
Great.
And if you're into a couple of idiots watching a bunch of idiots do idiotic stuff,
love that too.
Amityville is very much
Amityville is such a good name. Damn it.
I have never once named one of my podcasts. It's always been someone else who comes up with it. And Amityville was the first time where I was like, oh, this has got to be it. That was all me. And I'm so proud of
it. Oh, yeah.
Wow. 1 for 1.
And now I want to do other, once we get done, I want to do other podcasts, but I simply am like, or do other movie series if we get through the 90 some that we're going to watch. But I'm just like, how could I possibly one up Amityville? Like, how do I change the name to something as good as that?
Before we did Mutant Menace, I made Pat and my other comedy friend Ashley do a podcast with me about watching all the Pokemon movies,
of which there were 25 at the time, and we thought that was pretty
intimidating. I thought there was like the Mewtwo one, and then Detective Pikachu. I had no idea.
By the time we finished, there was roughly 30, and I wanted the thing I wanted to do was when we got to the end of them is make everybody watch them again and just keep doing the same
reanalyze
thing. But they both said no and quit. But that podcast, I was pretty proud of that name too. The Very Worst, I want to be the very best at the beginning of the Pokemon song.
What's the name of that series that is like Amityville? And I'm like old now and I can't remember things off the top of my head. With the Warrens.
Oh, the Conjuring.
Yeah, right. I've got to come up with a great Conjuring style pun so we can do those next.
Yeah.
We actually
won't try because
it's coming soon, but we actually watched a documentary called My Amityville Horror, which is about one of the sons of the Lutzes, the family again, who said that they were haunted in the house. And basically the story of it is he absolutely believes that something supernatural happened, but he believes it's because of his stepdad, George Lutz, who was into black magic. That's his belief.
Wild.
What a wild layer.
And halfway through the documentary, he spends like a half an hour with Elaine Warren like in her basement, just talking about the haunting because she like visited the house once, and she's like, "Yeah, it was definitely haunted." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course you would say that."
That's amazing.
It's a very gripping but incredibly depressing movie. It's on Tubi for free though, if you want to check it out.
I am so excited and afraid for you, Alex.
Dude, no one could be more excited or more afraid than I am about what I'm doing here.
All right, folks, thank you so much for listening. Please write in to Pat's email corner, mutantmenacepod@gmail.com. Like, rate, review, subscribe, comment, tell a friend.
You can check us out at Mutant Menace Pod on Instagram. You can check us out at our Patreon, patreon.com/Mutant Menace, where Patreon listeners, you can subscribe for free and you get our reading list, or you can pay any amount of money you want, as low as $1, and you get all our bonus content and you get episodes like this just a week early.
Yeah, you're listening to this one early.
if you've done it. You can find Alex Goldman. Where's the best place for everyone to find you?
I'm the only Hyperfixed, and I'm the only Amityville. So for me, very easy to find. Hyperfixed Pod everywhere, Amityville everywhere. Very easy to find.
I also want to thank Julia Selly for the voice of Trish Tilby that you hear at the beginning of every episode, and then Krills Wilson for the amazing music that we have. That leaves only one thing, which is the sign-off that we give at the end of every single episode.
That's right, folks. As always, we could always try telling jokes.
And remember, my one and only bouncing baby coochie coo.
It's like I always say, he's taking it. He's eaten.